Hey, frogs and toads, welcome back to Dr. Lemco's Creative Club. Today I'm joined by Leah Guzman. She's an artist, an art therapist. She's an author. She's the governor of the Creative Soul Society. She does 15 other cool things. We get into all of it. We also put our brains together and come up with this masterpiece. Want to know what it is? Why don't you wait and find out? My first question is, what color do you feel like today?
Ooh, I'm feeling a little creamy.
Ooh, okay.
Is that a color?
Yeah, I think so. Off white.
Yeah, like kind of like what I'm wearing. I wanted to be like really neutral. I feel like blending in today.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, smooth.
yes, I like that.
So, I'm excited to talk to you. You're an art therapist as well as an artist.
Yes.
We're going to dive into both. But the first thing I wanted to get into is sort of how you balance the two and how you kind of differentiate, because there must be a lot of overlap and there must be a lot that's very different and stays separate. So, yeah, how do you kind of think about those two lines of work?
Yeah, that's a great question. Is something that I really struggled with for a very long time. I went to art school. I've always been an artist, but I went to art school and had that opportunity to like just dive into art, make art, and that was great. It was so much fun, but I always felt like I was missing something. I always felt very like odd, because I don't know, there was like a kind of like an egotistical part of creating art and putting it out into the world, where I wasn't resonating. I felt like there was something missing. And then when I got my master's in art therapy, which was really amazing too, um, I was just doing art therapy and I kind of just lost that part of myself of creating just to create. And I felt like I was missing something then too. So it was like kind of going through these periods of time of doing one or doing the other. And I was like, this isn't balancing out. So when I had to come to this conclusion of, this life is really about me creating the art for myself. Because I think that was the struggle. I think the egotistical part was, I had something in my mind that I wanted to create. Maybe it was that perfectionism or something trying to come out, and it wasn't. And it was like this love-hate relationship. And I had to come to terms with my art, like, wait, I need to have a new relationship with my art. I need to create just for me. I need to create for fun. And I also need to be able to give. I need to hold space for people so they can have fun, they can create, they can get to know themselves as well. And when I just accepted that and moved forward in this new relationship with my art, everything got so much better. I was like,
Cool.
oh, this feels good. Yeah, so it's actually it feels better to do both than just pick one or the other. Like I feel like that I need to, yeah, to do
Yeah,
both.
that makes sense because you mentioned like just wanting to do the art for yourself.
Hmm.
When being an artist is so much like being an artist in a commercial sense, how do you kind of, yeah, what's your thoughts on like how to sell art and be a working artist, quote unquote, when you're also trying to just do it for yourself because it's very much a wellness practice? Yeah, talk to me a little bit about like the mentality that requires.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's yeah, putting it out to the world for consumption is totally different because if you want to sell it, right? And since it's been about 10 years since I decided, hey, I want to put my art into the world. If someone wants to buy it, that's great. And it's interesting because I'm not really static with my art. I like to experiment. I like to change up my themes. I have different series. I mean, sometimes I'm doing portraits, sometimes I'm doing abstract, sometimes I'm doing, I don't know, I just get in a little whirlwind and I create, right? And I have like a collection. But it's not always well received. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I could put something out there and I could sell like the whole series, which like my water series that went really well. But then like I have a new one out, I didn't sell anything from it, and I was like, okay, well that's cool. I put it out there, but it doesn't necessarily like I'm not disappointed at all. Like it's kind of like I did it for myself
Hmm.
because it makes me happy. And then like if I do it again, it's kind of like putting it out there to see like what people resonate with as well. But I think
So
being true to myself is important.
yeah, how do you like not let that affect it too much? Because if you're trying to do it for you, but obviously we're humans, we're conscious of like what works and what doesn't, and what's well received and what isn't as well received. Does that affect your creative process at all?
Well, like even like looking at like this last time exhibiting that, I put out this new series, and I know marketing, like you have to put things out, uh, at least 12 times before people even say, oh, wait, maybe I'm interested in this, right? That's why we have the bots that show us something like those new shoes so many times. And you're like, oh, I need this in my life. So I know that I have this new series and it needs to go out many times before people can say, oh, that's Leah, I want a piece of that energy or something along those lines. So I know it takes time to market. Does that affect me, like putting it out there again? I think I will continue putting it out there, but also, I think anytime I do a launch or put something out there, I always ask, hey, what's working? What's not working? What can I make better? And so, like, I already know like what I'm going to do for next year and how I want to exhibit. And it'll include part of this series, but it's also going to include other parts of my series, like other collections that I have. So, yeah, it's an experiment.
Yeah, I love that. That's the point of it, right? I love to just try some shit out. But when you say
Mhm.
when you use the term making it better,
Mm.
is that to you better? Like what you can ideate and oh, this would be cooler, this would look more like pleasing to what my tastes are. Um, because it's interesting in the comparison to art therapy where like finished result does not matter whatsoever.
Oh, no, I was in the, when I said that, I was definitely in the consumerism commercial aspect. When I say better, being in, like, I just went and exhibited an art fair and I was seeing like what was selling, and it was very much like what's catching your eye, like bright, like look at me, look at me, look at me. I mean, that's like big energy, right? This last series is like creamy, like what I'm looking at like right now. I don't have anything on the wall. I don't have it here right now, but it very relaxed. Like, is just, I'm very zen. It's a very zen series,
Cool.
modernism, like it just super chill. That was just my vibe for the whole thing. But didn't necessarily, like being in that show. I didn't know if it, that was definitely, I could say, how could I make it better? If I'm in the show again, I see what would work, right?
Cool.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
because we're just ingesting data and then making decisions based on the data. Essentially, that's the artist's job is to appeal. Your style, your personal style, are you able to kind of give it a description or is it always evolving and changing?
I feel like I'm always evolving and changing, but there is certain characteristics or like visual vocabulary that is consistent within my art. So I think that people can, or people who followed me for a while, they could see me within my artwork to say, oh, that's her, because I'm either using the color gold or I'm using just certain like flowy shapes that show up. That is something that as an artist that I want to be more consistent of, and maybe like putting those all together, of my different series, and how does that come together? Maybe that's my next evolution
Cool.
too. Yeah.
Yeah. I find I relate in the sense that I only like doing new things. I find that once I feel comfortable with something, I'm kind of like over it. I need to be bad at it to enjoy it.
Oh my, that's awesome. And so do you actually show your art as well and sell it?
I mean, I've sold a couple of pieces over the last couple of years, but I really only started this practice probably like 6 years ago and have been taking it like seriously the last maybe year and a half and going full time into this project about art, not necessarily selling my own, but making content about art. This is
Mm.
very recent, but it's been a slow couple year kind of pivot into going all in on art for sure. It's what I'm most passionate and interested in.
Oh, that's
Absolutely.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And it's good to experiment and just see what feels good for you. I think that's important.
That's That's what's so interesting about art is we can pivot a bit to the art therapy side of it because
Mhm.
it's such a valuable practice. It's so good for you as a
Mhm.
human to just be creative and flex that creative muscle. Um, so I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. Let's go into a bit of the lore because I'm curious. You were full full steams ahead as an artist, and then it wasn't quite feeling right, and you pivoted into art therapy.
Mhm.
That's like a drastic pivot. What was the process? What was your mentality there?
Well, I actually always knew that I wanted to do art therapy. I actually found out about it in high school. And I've always been into psychology and art. And I found out of like this little boy who had cancer, and he had an art therapist that would come in and help him process his emotions because his parents were busy, or things were going on, like sitting in a hospital bed, right? And he was like, he drew out little Pac-Man eating away his cancer cells, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. And I was like, I want to be that person that helps, kids. I want to be that person that helps you like during a tough time. So I thought that was cool. Like that stuck with me. And I knew that I wanted to go that route, but I knew that you had to get a master's to get there. And so I loved art. So I was like, let me get my undergraduate in art. And so that just kind of, I was just following the steps to get there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Interesting. So it must be a drastically different education though, learning art skills and then learning the expressive side of it.
Well, okay, so in my undergraduate, yeah, you're learning, how to make a beautiful sculpture and how to like, make a painting, how to mix colors and things like that. And then in the master's program, it was more clinical, meaning that you're learning about all these different theoretical approaches to support people that have mental health issues. So yeah, you're learning about, and actually, I interned in a psychiatric hospital, interned in a jail, I interned in a school. And so I got that taste of like what's it like with people with big problems, right? And how to use the art to help them.
School or jail, who's more creative?
Um, well, you had to be more restrictive in the jail. They couldn't,
No
you couldn't get
scissors.
scissors.
Yeah.
Everything was already cut.
Some
Uh,
schools also.
yeah. So the supplies were limited there. So, but I would say in the psychiatric hospital, it got really creative.
Um, so as an art therapist, in your opinion, is everybody an artist? Like is creativity come stock in every vehicle?
As long as you're open to it. I mean, there's some people who say, I can't do it. Well, guess what? You can't because you said you can't. But if
Yeah.
you are open to it, most definitely. I mean, a lot of my clients that I meet with will, they'll go to traditional counseling, like talk verbal therapy, and then end up wanting to do something else. Like they want to be expressive in another way, cope in another way. And so, as long as you're open to it, yeah, let's try. And they don't have I'm saying that because they don't have the skills necessarily, but if they're willing to try the paint, they're willing to mold with the clay, we can do something, right?
Absolutely. And I always say the best art in the world is not in museums, it's on fridges hung up by magnets. That's the good
Oh,
shit.
yeah,
um,
definitely.
as an art therapist, do you have any tips for how someone may um, express themselves and yeah, like express themselves through art rather than words? Like, do you have any tips for how someone can process that way? Because it's a whole other way of communicating.
Yeah, definitely. It's checking in with yourself daily. I think that's one of the biggest practices is say, hey, how am I feeling? Right. And then being able to create that your own visual vocabulary. We could start with an emotion wheel of saying, okay, what does happiness look like? What colors, what shapes, what is sadness, what is grief, what is anger, anxiety, like going through the feelings and then making your own visual vocabulary around it. And then every day, what if you just said, hey, let me check in. I'm feeling creamy today, right? What does that creaminess look like, right? And spend 5-10 minutes checking in and create it. Actually, that's going to be, I'm putting this out there for I started this project like a year ago and then I stopped after 3 months, but I would love to do that every day and just I do these like little squares. So I have, oh, they're in a box, but there's stuff on top of it I would show you. And I like to make words out of the little squares, but the little squares are my daily check-ins. So I'll do a daily check-in, and I only lasted 3 months before, but I'm like I'm gonna do 365 this year, my 2025. So you'll see. I'll share it with you.
All right, I'm gonna be
Wait,
checking in. Yeah, how does the caretaker take care? How what kind of practices do you do for yourself, the professional?
yeah, most definitely have taken that time. So for 2025, I'm going to come back to that, revisit my little 4x4 squares. I I have a daily practice of morning routine and night routine. So it's like meditation, art journaling, exercise. So when I do that, I can stay grounded. I could set my day up. That routine regulates your nervous system. And then that allows me to make art, during the day or see clients or do what I need to do. Yeah,
Yeah. And
it's
what's
important.
I mean, I assume they're all pretty unique, and I'm obviously not going to ask you for any specific details or stories, but a typical session is like mostly talking, mostly silence, or is it different every time?
Yeah, that's a great question because I have that question come up a lot. They were like, "Do we even talk in our sessions?" Yeah, so I like talking, but it doesn't necessarily have to. So everyone is different. I like to, I'll show you. I have this little thing that I use. Our first session, we go through every area of your life, with your relationship with self, your work, health, your home, your money, projects, travel, self-care. So each area of our life is a relationship. And what we do is we identify where you're at with that relationship and then how you want to grow.
Hmm.
And then the themes that come up within those sessions, um, that's what we're going to focus on. Make art about it. Some people just want some music on and they'll make art and then we'll talk afterwards. Or some people just like the conversation because something came up that week and they feel like they need to talk as they create, and that happens too. So it's really up to the person what they're comfortable. I'm just holding the space for them to help them process it.
Right. And you're a professional who's able to help with those emotions being processed as well. Because I find there's a lot of, myself included, trying to create space for an artistic practice. But yeah, just the importance of a therapist knows what they're doing. Um,
Well, the difference is just because I think people get confused of what is art as therapy versus art
right.
therapy. So, for example, like me creating that daily practice of let me check in with my feelings and make art about it, that's me by myself. So that is just art as therapy. It's therapeutic in nature because I am like talking about like, processing my feelings through the art, but it's just me. And the difference between art therapy, like it's really that coined term, is that you're meeting with a professional. Like I've gone to professionals myself as an art therapist when I needed help, when things were tough. And being able to reflect and get that support guiding me
Yeah,
of like what is my next step or what should I do? How do I process this? That's that art therapy. So a little difference. I think people do get confused about using that term art
for
therapy.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
I went to talk therapy for many years before ever trying art therapy, and I remember my first session just being like, "Oh, so you just kind of like hang out with me?" And she was like, "Yeah," and I was like, "Okay, this is awesome. This is great," because you still want to talk things out and ramble and vent if you need to vent. Yeah,
Yep.
and there's a professional there to guide you along in it. You mentioned you worked in schools, you've worked at prisons. Is there a like a type of client that you
Mhm.
find like you resonate best with?
Yeah. Well, I think I'm a mom as well.
Nice.
And I've actually had a contract with the public schools for 20 years. So my kids are older now. Like my oldest is 18. And it's interesting, whatever age my kids were, that's the ages that I really loved working with. My kids were in elementary school. I just loved elementary age kids, middle school, high school. Um, I love working with high schoolers a lot just because they are more reflective versus being reactive. behaviorally, so they can like dive deeper in their art and really relate it to their life. But I've in the past several years, I started working online with women in particular, and I love that too. Like there's this part of a lot of the women that I work with are just like in a life transition or, just really like struggling emotionally because something happened. And being able to help them find those connections and the coping skills to deal with it is beautiful. So like
Yeah,
I get excited about that.
I
Yeah.
love that. It is beautiful. Yeah, and I've noticed, like I said, I'm very early in this project, but since I've started putting some stuff out there, I find the majority of people online, at least, who are like interested in this sort of like, I'm calling it like creative wellness type of stuff,
Mhm.
um, is like, I guess, surprisingly, like astoundingly female. So I think, yeah, the bros got to get in on this.
Oh yeah, you're gonna make it happen. You're gonna let them
Yeah,
know how cool it is.
the dude's got to do some coloring. Um,
I love it.
when you're working in schools,
Mhm.
I'm curious if, like, because I'm curious about kids who grow up in a digital age and how that affects their creativity. Either it might amplify it or it might kind of dull it. I'm not sure. So, what do you have you noticed anything?
That's
Has the
interesting.
digital era have any sort of noticeable differences in their practice?
Well, I'm really hands-on. Like I like getting like using clay, getting my hands dirty, using plaster, things like that. And that introducing that to them, it's new, and they like it too. So I think I've had one student that I let him bring his iPad and create digitally. Because that's what like he was able to like express himself that way. But I try to go that opposite extreme of let's just get your hands dirty and try some things. And for me, it's very different than an art class because in art class you're teaching them how to like put things together to look a certain way. And when we work together, I'm really wanting them to find that personal, what is that favorite animal that you want to resonate with, or what's that calm scene that you want to create, or what is it that you want to manifest? Let's paint or draw about that. So it's just definitely more personal and
Yeah,
in our yeah.
that makes sense. So speaking of this on the subject,
Hmm.
why don't we hop into a little art piece and we can keep chatting and keep going, but let's get our collaboration started.
Sure.
So
So what kind of materials you have in front of you?
I have pretty much here. I've got a menu. I don't know
Oh
if
wow.
you can see this. We
Okay,
can
you have to
go.
oh
We can
acrylic
go
paint.
with yes,
Mm-hmm.
acrylic paint, oil paint, watercolors, pastels, inks, oil paint stick, colored pencils, markers, or collage. Or we could just have a free for all and use whatever we feel like.
Mm. So which one are you resonating with? Which one is like calling out your name? Mm.
I'm thinking, hmm, I think I'm gonna bust out the. You don't have a favorite of a?
Me?
Oh, yeah, most comfortable because we're doing this one together. I know you're
Oh, so I
used
need.
to. I know
So what do
you're
I?
used to guiding people through it. No, you don't need to do anything.
Oh, I don't
You're
need. You want me to get some oil pastels? I was like, wait. I mean,
no, you're coaching me. You're the decisions, and I'm Krang, and you're the brain.
okay, how about we use some? Okay, you have a. What kind of pastels are they? Oil. Oh, you have oil paint sticks. Those are cool.
Yes, they
Let,
are.
I, let's use those.
Let's do it.
And you know what I like about oil paint sticks is that they're expressive versus using a pencil. It's very hard to connect your emotions with a pencil because they're so controlling. So when you can use like acrylic paint or these oil paint sticks, you're going to have a lot more expression with your emotion.
I love that. Okay, I've got this recycled paper that like a 300-year-old man who lives near me makes in a
Ooh.
dungeon. And okay, what I thought we would do
Oh, okay.
is okay, I've got three options of words that we're gonna make a piece about. So you're
Oh,
gonna
okay.
pick one of the three. Do you want? It's kind of a never mind. It's freedom,
Hmm.
ego, or home.
Ooh, freedom, ego, or home? How about freedom?
Let's go freedom. Okay, so let's double click on freedom a little bit. What
Hmm.
are five elements that come to mind when you think of freedom? Either a feeling or a item or an actual visual, a color.
Okay.
Let's go
Um,
with
I think of, well, the visual that comes to mind is driving around in my car with the windows down and the music's on really loud and my hair is going like this. That looks
love it.
like freedom to me. What about you? What is freedom like? What visual?
Freedom is a dolphin
Ooh,
in
dolphin.
sunglasses.
Hmm.
Wait for it, playing electric guitar.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, your turn.
All right. Freedom is, hmm, for some reason the color blue keeps coming up, so I'm thinking blue.
Okay, freedom is blue.
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna say that freedom is fire and water.
Oh, it's like a mix.
And the last one,
Oh, it's on me.
yeah,
Okay. Okay. How about I don't know. Now I'm thinking of the beach because then I'm thinking of the sun and the sand and the ocean.
sure.
The
Beach,
beach.
beach. Let's go get away.
Yeah.
We got
Yeah.
windows down in the car,
Hmm.
hair flowing in the wind. We got a dolphin in sunglasses playing electric guitar. The color blue, fire and water, and the beach. So now we could start to make some imagery. I'm gonna grab an oil stick. How should we split this up? Should we put them each together or in separate areas?
Well, I think that it's important to synthesize everything because it's all about relationships and we want connection within our relationships. So, looking how these all play together.
Cool. So what's an image that these play together? We could have. I mean, I'm seeing it. I don't know about you, but I'm seeing a beach with a
Yeah.
dolphin in the horizon. We got the
Uh-huh.
car driving by on a road next to it,
Yeah.
and there could
Yeah.
be there could be a fire on the beach.
Yeah.
So
Or you can put the sun. The sun is fire.
the sun is fire. This is a
Yeah.
art podcast and a science podcast. So I'm gonna get started. While I get working, I
Okay.
want to ask you about, you wear so many different hats.
Yeah.
How do you manage to uh yeah, juggle them all? How do you find balance when you're doing art therapy, you're running workshops and online sessions, and you wrote a book, and there's so many things. I'd love to
Yeah.
touch on all of them, but firstly, how do you do them all?
Okay. Um, there's two components to this. One is I'm a project junkie, meaning that I love projects. I'm obsessed with doing projects that get me excited. And I have to always be working on something because the idea of being bored is terrifying. So that's one. That's one. And I like working on like a few different projects at one time. The other part is that I'm a time ninja.
Ooh,
Yeah. So I
teach me, sensei.
I love time because I own it. I tell myself, okay, I have time. And I have one of those, I have this law of attraction journal, which I love, and it has increments, 15-minute increments within the hours. And I just find it so fascinating that I could say, what can I do in 15 minutes that would like take me to my next goal? What can I do in the next blah, blah, blah? And I literally just fill in like the blanks and I get things done. Like I'm like, let's do it. And then that's like the dopamine hit that just gets me going. And it's just baby steps. Like every book that I make, every, art project, things like that. It's just like, okay, well, today I'm going to give it some love. What's the little love I can give it? And that's so satisfying.
Interesting. Yeah, I too am a project junkie. I find I'm constantly biting off more than I could chew, and I
Oh,
figure if I accomplish 10% of what I set out to do, that's still more than like I think the average person or what I typically would do. Um,
hmm.
so I find I'm productive, but it also comes at the expense of like constantly coming short and constantly like not hitting targets and goals and stuff. How do
Oh,
you,
yeah.
yeah, so how do you like budget your time appropriately? Uh, as a project junkie, how do you not get too overwhelmed with it?
Yeah. So that used to happen to me. And what I realized is that I have to take care of my energy. And by taking care of my energy so I could do my passion projects is that self-care routine, like regulating my nervous system, my morning routine, my night routine, so that I can show up fully for wherever I'm at, right? Because I want to have energy. So that's one is having a really good self-care routine, important, right? The other part is every year, this is what I like to do, and I'm doing this in my Creative Soul Society membership, is I do like a vision board. I do like the cut and paste. I create the visions that I want to manifest, but I'm real specific about what it is, and I go down to like maybe three projects or three things that are important to me that I want to focus on for the year. And with those three, then I take the time, I make art about it. Like I'm super intentional. I'm like, what energy is going to be like, what energy do I feel when I do it? What's the energy I'm going to feel after I do it? What rewards I'm going to give to myself as I make that next baby step? So I create these systems so that it's leading me along to finish it. And that's really important to me that I reward myself, that I get to that next up and I get help along the way. And that's been a big game changer because I used to feel like I had to do everything myself.
Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Um,
so I get help, lots of help.
that's good. And how do you, another thing I find that I often struggle with is the ability to like say no to some ideas. Like having a lot of ideas and then
Mhm.
picking the ones that you can't do them all, and picking becomes a major challenge. What sort of criteria do you look for? Like what's the thought process?
Yeah. So the question that I ask myself is, out of all these ideas and projects, yeah, I get a lot of downloads myself. I say, which ones are going to make the biggest ripple effect in my life and other people's lives? So if it is writing a book that might take me over a year to create, then, and I know that's going to have a big impact on people, I'm going to focus on that. Like that is the direction that I want to go. If it's creating an art series, like I'm definitely going to put creating my art series for this year and my vision board because that's going to make an impact on my mental health and how I want to show up in the world. So I'm going to like focus on that. So that's like a big question of how, like the important, because anything that you do is going to take energy, right? Marketing, if you want to put something out into the world, that's even double the energy.
Yeah, and it's all budgeting energy, right?
Yeah. And you got to find your energy leaks. Like literally going throughout your day and whether it's being around certain people or if it's, walking in hallways that are crowded, and you're like, you know what, I can wait till the bell rings, there's no one in the hallway, and then I'll walk. Because being overstimulated, like
Yeah.
sensory, when you go into the store or like when you drive somewhere in traffic, really thinking about those details because it takes energy. So you're just like, how can I use my energy so that I can be that time ninja of saying, oh yeah, it's like putting a puzzle, like a Jenga puzzle.
Yeah. And I think it also requires really like, I guess I mean it in a positive way, but like understanding like to be selfish is okay because
Yes.
I find like this year is such a perfect example where I typically struggle so much with like seasonal depression when it gets. I don't
Mm,
even like the term. I think we're mammals and we're meant to hibernate. I think it's crazy that you have to go out and do anything when it's cold and snowy. So I
right.
live in like in the winter. It's Montreal, Canada turns into like a frozen tundra, and I
Wow.
would always get so depressed and so exhausted and unmotivated during the winter. And this year, I'm leaning into it. I'm not
Mm,
going anywhere. I'm saying no to everything. I'm drawing my little pictures at home. I'm staying cozy and warm. And I'm
good.
so excited about the winter this year because I'm not forcing myself to live like it's summer.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So I live in Miami, Florida, where summer is like year round.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
It's difficult. I mean, it is beautiful because this is our season to be outside because it is like such nice weather. And then I feel the difference in the summertime. I actually hibernate because
Really.
it's so hot outside, unbearably
Yeah.
hot. It's 90s. And yeah, like this summer, I worked on my book, this passion project of artist therapy for youth, and I made 88 videos. So
Wow.
of that process was hibernating. I really did stay home and just focus on that, just so I
So,
could do that. Yeah. This one, I just got the proof, and it's now on Amazon. So
nice.
my first book was called Rad is Mad, and this is Rad is Mad. It was about like a little monster truck who needed to deal with his feelings. He was sad and mad, and that one was I was needed to deal with my feelings. And what you had mentioned about not being able to say no, I'm a recovery people pleaser. I used to say yes to everything and everyone, and when I learned that it was causing me anguish, I was resentful, I never had time for myself, things like that. When I made the switch of, hey, wait, I do have these ideas, I do have a lot of things I want to put in the world, but I have to say no to people, made a
Yeah.
life changed, like literally.
Making a book sounds like such an intense process. There's so many little things that goes into giving birth to that sort of thing.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Well, that first book that Radis Matt, I actually was seeing an art therapist at the time because I was having depression and anxiety from that people pleasing and not realizing that was what I was doing. So the book came from that time period. And then from that, that's when I realized, hey, I want to show up in the world differently. I want to put my art out to the world. I want to, show up online and talk about art therapy, things like that. And that's when I was reached out by a publishing house to do the book that you had mentioned, Essential Art Therapy Exercise, which was really popular. I mean, it's in like 6 different languages. It was well received, which I was really happy about. Since then, I've written two other books. One is more about the energy and manifesting, but this is the newest one, the new baby, and this one's called Essential Artist Therapy for Youth: Creative Ways to Express Big Emotions. So this is kind of like honoring the 20 years of that working with kids in the school system and just finding like the techniques that I like to connect with the youth. So it's for kids in elementary, middle, and high school, and it's just really going through all the different emotions and how to express them in a creative way. So,
What goes into a good, like
mhm,
a good art therapy exercise? What
mhm.
kind of criteria are you looking for?
Well, definitely emotion, definitely a story, and then like a connection of like how is it related to them and their life. So, for example, there's like if the I love the self-portraits that are in here. Each of the chapters, one is about mastering emotions, one is about building your confidence. But each one of the chapters has feeling felties. So they're like little plushies that I have. Actually, I have them in my car right now because I was using them. And then each of them has a portrait of yourself. Here's one. This is your best self. Here's one of the pictures.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
love
so
it.
they have it has artwork and then it has the directive and then a little QR code to watch the video that goes with
Oh,
it.
cool. Digital
Yeah.
interactive art book. Love it.
Yeah, so you get to come with me in my studio and we work together.
Oh wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So how's your
Quick,
art coming along? I want to
yeah,
know.
quick check in. I feel like we got a foundation here, but I feel like how do you feel about bringing in some acrylics?
Oh yeah.
Shall we?
Mix it up.
You are the purveyor of the Creative Soul Society. Tell me what that is.
Yeah, so about 4 years ago, I um, had this idea that, oh, here's the picture that I wanted to show you. I'm like, where is my picture? So it's
Oh
taking a
wow,
picture of yourself, and then this is actually, we did this in the Creative Soul Society, and then collaging, what does it look like for you? What are those colors and stuff? So basically, the Creative Soul Society, yeah, I've had it for 4 years, and it's really awesome. It's like a gym membership for your soul, and we make
love
art.
that.
So we meet 3 times a month, and it's I usually will I'll host one, and then I'll usually invite a guest, either an artist. Actually, you should join us one day. That would be cool.
Sure, would love to.
So yeah, I'll invite an artist, and they'll come in, and it is focused on well-being, and so they'll show like a technique or something new, and it's fun. It's just a way to connect with other artists and creatives. And we have time at the end where we share. And then we have a whole, like a Facebook group where everyone posts their art, who didn't get to share in the actual group.
Cool. Do you have any tips for like creating kind of, I know it's like a buzzword these days, but like creating a community around art and feeling good?
Um,
I'm just asking you for
well,
career advice now.
yeah. Well, definitely showing up and sharing your gifts, right? So showing up to let people know your message, your voice. And I think that was kind of hard for me at first. Like, I didn't even want to talk about art therapy because I was like, people don't know what I'm talking about. When I first started showing up online about 10 years ago. But now I'm a lot more comfortable talking about it, and just wellness in general. Like the Creative Soul Society, I just kind of let people know like what we're doing, and if it resonates with them, come try it out. Um, but yeah, I think it was when I first started, I actually started with a Facebook group, and that felt safe for me because I think people on my personal Facebook page didn't know what I was talking about because they're like people from that I've known forever, but they don't really understand what I was doing. So I was because I like talking about energy, and I like talking about chakras and art therapy and healing and things like that. And not everybody is into that. So I just created a space where people are into that. And that was
Cool.
cool. So that I can just focus on that. And then it was me showing up, basically talking to myself, I felt like, because I would, on Facebook, when you come live, you can't see the other people.
Yeah,
And that's kind of hard. I was like, I feel like I'm talking to myself. I was just reading people's comments, and I was like, you know what? We need to switch this up. And that's when the Creative Soul Society. I was like, you know what? Let's just meet on Zoom, and I'll just structure it as a community. And if you want to be a part of it, you can. So, yeah, that's kind of how it
cool. So
evolved.
I guess so the key to fostering community online is like just be genuine and do the thing that you want to see exist.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. um, So you also do outside of the, we're just listing the things now. Outside of the books, the
I do
Creative
have
Soul
it.
Society, you do so much. Tell me about the cards. I saw you sell like the tarot cards. Or no, they're
Oh yeah,
not
my
tarot. Sorry, or are they?
no, they're actually it's an oracle deck. So the difference
Oracle deck.
is, yeah, so the oracle deck is more about just picking for guidance, and you could just pick one card. I think the tarot is more about it's like there's different spreads, and it has like a little bit different. Like each of the cards had different meanings. But would you like me to pick one for you?
I would love that. Let's do it.
Okay. Yeah, this is a companion piece to my one of my books called The Art of Healing and Manifesting. So this is goes through the chakras, which are energy centers in your body, and each card has my art on one side. So like this is one of my ocean paintings that I was talking to you about. That was
Nice.
popular. Yeah.
And it's a quick tangent, but how do you make those? Like, what are they?
What are they?
Like, I
Well,
mean, the ocean piece, is that like your poured acrylic?
it's not poured acrylic. I actually painted the acrylic.
Oh
Yeah.
wow,
It was a
cool.
big painting. It was like 36 by
Wow,
36. Yeah.
very
Okay.
cool.
I'm gonna pick a card for you. Let's
Come on,
see.
fortune.
Oh, you got the eye.
Ooh,
Okay.
cool. What's there's like a meaning?
Yeah. So the eye is the third eye chakra. That's what it's related to. And it says believe. Believing is the first step in creating your ideal life. Doubt blocks the manifesting process. Identify your limiting beliefs. Even if you can't physically see your desire, use your imagination. Clarify what you want. Every obstacle is an opportunity.
Ooh, very true. I love that. And we said it before. It's what you believe is what's true, right?
Yeah. And so do you feel like this could relate to your life in some way? Is there something like a doubt or maybe some sort of limiting belief that could be stopping you from a desire?
You know, I think I'm learning that currently. I think I'm this whole thing, the show that you're on right now, is kind of me deciding to like go for it. I've always been an entertainer, I've always been a content producer, but I've always been like a guy for hire, and people hire me to make the thing that they want me to make them. Um, so this is my first real go at like, you know what, this feels aligned, this feels purposeful, this feels right for me. So I'm just gonna go for it and do it. And I don't have all the details figured out. And there's definitely a ton of subconscious doubts. But I'm learning to just trust it and keep moving forward day by day. But it definitely resonates because I'm in that phase of like just learning to keep trusting it.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Yes, and I totally see it growing. And I love the idea that you want to open it up to more men as well, so that they can start being creative and play with these kind of concepts of mental well-being, creativity.
Yeah, I think it's the best medicine on the planet, and it's like so accessible. And yeah, I just I'm very excited about shouting this as much as I can.
Oh,
um
that's beautiful.
Thank you. So are those the cards are available, people can purchase them and kind of use them as creative inspiration?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, you can use them as like guidance, like what message, do you need to hear for the day? Or sometimes I use them like that too. I was like, well, let me pick a card and that'll be what I'll draw for today. You can use it as definitely as creative inspiration.
We even saw the very rare goffle. It was a goffle. I know. We were shocked to see it showing up.
I do retreats every 3 to 4 months. So
Nice.
this has been part of me showing up. So what I do is I offer it's a gift to the world. That's how I see it, because it does take a lot of energy for me to show up and offer the retreats. But the retreats are a free experience where you get to get a little taster about
Oh, cool.
what I do and how I work with people. So you're
Awesome.
welcome to join us. Yeah, we have one coming up January 6th, so it's for the new year, and it's called the Online Healing Art Retreat. And yeah, it's 3 days. It's 8 p.m. Eastern. Are you Eastern time?
Yes.
Okay, so it's 8 p.m. Eastern and then it's like 5 p.m. Pacific. And it's just 1 hour each day. So it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for an hour where I'm guiding you through a creative process. Each day is a little different, but they build upon itself. And I do extend it for 2 more days for those people who want to do a VIP, meaning that's 2 more extra days of meeting a community, which is awesome. And then I give like an art journal, and I do have a lot of like things involved that go with being part of the experience.
Cool.
Yeah,
And you said that that's a free experience?
yeah, it's totally
Cool.
free. It's pretty amazing. I had like 900 people on a
Wow.
Zoom last time. It was pretty epic. That was the
Incredible.
biggest one I've had so far. I was like, oh my
Wow.
gosh, I can't believe there's that many people here. But when you're on a Zoom, you only see like the five little boxes.
Yeah,
It's like
I'm
I'm
sure.
just focusing on these five faces right now.
Yeah, in a room that would feel different for sure.
Yeah,
It's the beauty of Zoom.
yeah.
Um,
So it was fun.
that's so cool. Yeah, you do so many awesome, interesting, like useful things. I love it.
Thanks. Yeah,
Very
I
cool.
I feel like that's part of my zone of genius of being able to give back in a creative way of just
Hmm.
offering experiences, offering my books, offering ways to work with me, so that I don't know. That's what keeps me going, right? That feels like I'm in alignment when I'm doing it.
You mentioned like after the first book, you really started thinking about like putting yourself online. As someone that kind of has so much to offer, how do you think about, because I find in online terms you have to be so concise and so specific and what's your niche, and everyone's like so hyper specific in the digital world. How do you
Mhm.
think about, again, another like digital term that I'm not a fan of, but like your brand? How do you think about putting yourself out there and being able to really offer everything?
Yeah, so a part of showing up, because it does feel like there's like a lot of moving parts, and I would love to be more consistent than I am, but I do I want to say it's not that I like owe it to myself, but I do feel that responsibility. I think that would be a good word. I do feel a responsibility to show up for myself and for my brand to say, this is what I'm about. Just getting clear and intentional of like, what do I want to share? What would be useful? What would be inspiring? What would be educational? Like asking myself those type of questions so that I have something to offer for people. Oh, I get to see your art.
It's
Who's going
coming
to be in
along. There you are.
That's me? Aw,
Yeah.
I'm in my freedom, looking
Here,
at the
let's do a
dolphin.
little. This is very accurate piece.
I love it. I look so happy.
um,
This is my ideal day, just letting you know. Going to the
yeah,
beach. Yeah.
seeing the dolphins. I gotta add. I have three elements left. I have the electric guitar.
Yeah.
I have the sun, and then I
Hmm.
gotta just put your flowing hair, and then I think we
Oh,
got a piece.
beautiful.
So
Well, it's amazing.
while I work on the finishing touches,
Hmm.
if you had 20 art therapy sessions
Hmm.
with any famous person, who would you pick? Dead or alive?
Oh, that I'd be giving them art therapy, that they
Yeah,
would
you would
like.
get 20 sessions with one person.
I want to work with Drew Barrymore.
Ooh, okay. Why Drew Barrymore?
I love her. I just
She
love her
seems cool.
personality and just she's authentic and I love her show and I just want to meet her. Like she's one of those people that I just feel like she's a kindred spirit and
Mhm.
I mean, I mean, I remember like E.T., like how could you like not love her? So
Absolutely.
I think she would love art therapy, and I think she needs to experience it. I don't know if she's ever had it before or tried it, but um, I
I
think that would
saw,
be
I think I saw you, I read an interview or something where you mentioned that growing up you were a big Bob Ross fan. Is that true?
yes, I
Oh,
love Bob Ross.
love Bob.
That's why I paint is because of Bob Ross.
Wow.
Yeah, my grandmother would just put them on the TV, and then we'd go to Kmart and buy these paint by numbers, and I would just doing my mountain paint by numbers, watching him, thinking that I was doing what he was doing. It was fun.
I find I want to start a cause. I find
Mhm.
Bob Ross does not get nearly enough credit as a sex symbol. I think
Oh.
he was like loose with the buttons. He had like chains on. He's got a very wholesome public image, but I think old Bob was given some riz.
Oh wow, I'm looking at him totally different now.
Oh, sorry, I sexualized Bob Ross
Yeah,
for you. Yeah, my bad.
it's okay.
So I think this is coming along nicely. We've got an electric guitar, one badass dolphin, and one badass lady driving.
Yeah, woohoo! And we got the
Um,
sun.
so as an artist,
Mhm.
do you have like a favorite medium to work with, a favorite uh yeah, like what's your practice like? Maybe that's a better question. That's a totally different question. But when you get into I'm going to make art mode, what does that entail? What are you doing?
Yeah, well, I've been painting, so sometimes I like to go really, really big. Um, just like rolling out a huge canvas, stapling it on my wall, and just going at it. Sometimes that's where it's at. But now I want to do some smalls, like I mentioned, the 4x4s, and then being able to put them together to create different phrases and mantras. And I also want to get more into like to be more sculptural. So I got a sewing machine, which I don't know how to use, but I'm going to learn how to. I want to do some sewing in it, or even like do like found objects and then put them into it, so it's more 3D. That's kind of
Cool.
the direction that that's what I'm thinking I'd like
I
to
love
do.
that. You ever
Yeah.
in a clinical sense, you ever have somebody use like a really interesting or unique material or medium?
Well, trying to think. I mean, I've seen it online where people like to use their blood and things like that, and I'm always kind of a little bit grossed out. I remember in college someone was using pig skins, and I was kind of like,
Oh,
ew. Yeah.
okay.
I don't know.
What do they do with the
Um,
rest of the pig?
no, yeah, they went and bought intestines too. It was really gross. I was imagining that would just rot. I don't know. I don't know how that all came about, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying to think. In sessions, I'm usually providing the materials, so they're pretty, I don't want to say kosher, but they're like I feel like they're nice
Yeah,
and yeah, they're like
they're
non-toxic. I'm not
they
using bad stuff.
yeah
Yeah.
they've been vetted.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are you ready for a reveal? I think we've got a
Yeah.
finished piece, but this is a collaboration. So any tweaks or suggestions you got, let me know.
Okay. Okay. Oh, I love the hair. I like how big it is. Oh, it's awesome.
There's your
Oh, it's beautiful. And the sun's going and the dolphin's happy. All right.
yes.
Well, what title should we give it?
I think we call it freedom.
Okay. Okay, that works.
I think this is freedom. This
Beautiful.
this is freedom. Leah, thank you so much for joining me. This was so much fun.
Yeah, it was great talking to you, and I would love to collaborate with you again. Does that sound
I would love
good?
that. Absolutely would love that. last thing before I let you go, I finish every episode with, it could be from this episode or it could be anything you want. I'm gonna
Mhm.
write a quote of yours on my wall in Sharpie. What quote do you want to live in my home forever?
Oh, okay. Well, I just got this poster. Can you see it?
Yeah, what
It
does it
says,
say?
"Today is a great day to make art about your feelings."
Boom, love it. Today is a great day, and you know what? So is tomorrow.
You're right.
Yeah, Leah, this is amazing. I'll put all of your links and profiles in the description. Do you have any last words for the people out there?
Thank you. It was awesome getting to talk to you, Tyler. I appreciate it.
You too. Thank you so much.